What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? How is everyone doing? Welcome to another episode of 2 a.m. in Sweden. I am one of your hosts of the show, Hayes, aka AO Shifty. And it's just me today. Our friend of the show, our special guest of the show, Steven at Steven underscore Springs, the great co-host. He's not here today. He sent me everything, so don't worry, we will not miss a beat. There's a ton of things that we do have to cover. We'll talk about the upsets that happened in the college football world. We'll talk about the NFL. We'll help you guys get ready for fantasy football, and then we'll close this all up and kind of go into what we can expect. In addition to that, I was in Detroit, so we can talk about that as well. And kind of just starting a lot of this off, we are going to go into some of the surprises and the upsets that happen. As most people do know, Notre Dame did lose last week. Iowa State did lose. I was the first one to come out and say I'm the reason for the losses because I definitely bet on both of them. I had like a 5 or 6 game parlay with Notre Dame on it. They were minus like 5,000. They were supposed to win and they lost. So that was kind of one thing that was unfortunate. Iowa State losing, I was not expecting that to end up happening too. So those are both things that we can definitely look more into how this beginning of the college football landscape is going to play out. So that's kind of important. The other thing is Andrew Reese is out for the rest of the season. So essentially, Kalen Clark is going to win Rookie of the Year, more than likely going off of that. So you had Andrew Reese and Cameron Brink both not being able to finish the season for different reasons. That's the first thing I definitely like to end up touching on. I want to dive right into college football because the AP college poll came out. We are another week closer to the playoffs, which a lot of people I know, definitely Steven, is really excited to end up seeing what happens this year with the college football playoffs because we have expanded it. So number one, Georgia, of course, SEC team. They're 2-0. They go up against Kentucky next week. Texas, for starters, I'm going to backtrack. Okay, so as everyone knows, I was in Detroit. Cool. That's fine. Being in Detroit, as everyone knows, at that airport, you probably end up seeing, how do I put this? Michigan, and then you also end up seeing Michigan State. So cool. Saw them both, and I was leaving at this point. It was on Thursday. A lot of Longhorn fans were coming in, and on my flight out, I had a lot of Michigan State fans because Michigan State was playing College Park. So you kind of got a blend of both in that one airport, and you could just see how big this game was going to be from Texas and Michigan just going up against each other. Texas number 2 at 2-0. Ohio State's currently 3. They dropped 1. They're 2-0. Alabama is number 4. Ole Miss number 5. Missouri is number 6. So just looking at it, you have 5 out of the 6 teams are from the SEC. When I tell you, when SEC play begins, this shit's going to get changed. It's going to get changed, but also at the same standpoint, some of these teams can lose a game and still be in here. If you have this many teams that are within the top 10, if you're losing to another team in the top 10, they're not going to drop you down to 20, 25. Now, if you have like 2, 3 losses, that's different. And I'll let Steven explain a lot of this come next week. Number 7, another SEC team. We have Tennessee. Tennessee's been doing really good. I've been hearing a lot of talk about Tennessee. Number 8 is Steven's team. Penn State next week to go up against Kent State. So Tennessee plays Kent State on September 14th. Penn State, as you remember, has a bye. On September 21st, they play Kent State. So I feel bad for Kent State going up against the number 7 team and then the number 8 team. Number 9, we have Oregon, and they go up against Oregon State. Number 10, we have the U, Miami Hurricanes at 2-0 as well. They're the only team in the ACC in the top 10. If I were to look at this, they're the only team Louisville's at number 19. Just looking at Iowa State is up there as well. Give me 2 seconds because I said I definitely stand corrected on something that I said earlier. Oh, my bad. Iowa lost. That was the big one. And I put down Iowa State. Iowa lost to Iowa State. That was the important thing that did end up happening. So Iowa State is now at 21 in the college rankings, and that booted Iowa out. Northern Iowa getting the win over Notre Dame currently is at 25. I don't think that's going to stay the same. A lot of this is going to change. Pay attention to Boise State. They're like honorable mention. They're receiving votes. They're not in it right now. Nebraska's at 23. LSU is at 16. Kansas State 14. Just kind of rattling off different ones. USC is number 11 right now. Michigan is at 17. I could see Michigan falling more. Notre Dame, that was the big one. So Notre Dame with the loss, they fell 13 spots all the way to 18. They were at 5. They went to 18. Some people feel that they should have fell lower just based off of the loss that they had. Arizona is at 20. So that's kind of the big takeaway from it. Colorado did lose. They kind of got a little washed against Nebraska. I was watching that game. I've started to watch a lot more of the college football games, but I'm going to leave that part for Steven because I want him to be able to just go in depth on what happened in college football this week that just happened. And then also next week, he'll be able to give an analysis on. It's been exciting watching the games. You can kind of start to see a lot of the different players who you know are going to be top 20, top 32 picks in the first round. But the other side I want to switch to is now the big boys. So we're going to go in 3 different tiers with this. I'm going to start by giving you my game picks and then also Steven's picks. After that, we're going to go into who's been surprises so far this year and then who's been kind of a concern. And the final part is I will talk about my fantasy football stuff because as everyone knows, I'm in 7 leagues right now. I won 4, lost. I should have won 6 out of 7. Moody messed me up because he scored like 20 points kicking, and I was not expecting that the last game, so I lost that one. And then Christian McCaffrey didn't play. I picked up one of the backups, picked up the wrong one. Jordan Mason was already taken in a lot of my leagues. I forgot to get Kyle Juszczyk, and now they're saying that Christian McCaffrey might not even play next week too. But kind of switching over into the games that we do have coming up. First one on Thursday is Bills-Dolphins. I have the Bills. Steven has the Bills. Saints-Cowboys. We both have the Cowboys. Colts-Packers. A big one with this is Jordan Love is not playing. Jordan Love is injured, so we have Malik Willis, and that's the main reason why we're both going with the Colts. I have seen too much of Malik Willis right now, and it's only going to take the Packers maybe 1 week. Then they might give Sean Clifford a chance. If not, they're finding a backup. But they're not rocking for 4 weeks with Malik Willis. I can assure you of that if he plays the same way he played in Tennessee when they had a chance to make the playoffs. Jets-Titans, we both got the Jets. Will Levis is coming along, but just looking at the Jets defense, although they got dismantled against the 49ers, I can see the Jets pulling this one out. Aaron Rodgers is going to find a stride with Allen Lazard and then also Garrett Wilson. And then Breece Hall has been doing good back there. 49ers, Vikings, 49ers are going to do well. Look at what they just did to the Jets. So I can only imagine it'll be the same going up against the Vikings. I can also see Justin Jefferson struggling a little bit here. They are going to find a way to end up blanketing him to force Sam Darnold to end up passing to anybody else but Justin Jefferson. In addition, we did see Jordan Mason go ham, run for over 140 rushing yards and had 28 carries, which was big. Debo is good. George Kittle picked it up. Jennings and Brandon Ayuk both had good games. Brandon Ayuk, we did see a little rust. So as he continues to get better, we will see a difference here too. The next one is the Seahawks-Patriots. I have the Patriots. Steven has the Seahawks. I liked what I saw from Gerard Mayo in the Patriots last game against the Bengals. And I also chose the Bengals last time, so I'm just trying to see if my fortunes can be with me this time. Steven has the Seahawks. He's always been a Seahawks person, so I'm not surprised with that. Giants-Commanders. I have the Giants. I just think the Commanders are not good. Steven has the Commanders. I personally feel, and I'm also doing this because if the Giants lose to the Commanders and Daniel Jones can't do well, Daniel Jones is not going to be their quarterback next year. And I can foresee towards the end of this year, them just holding him out just so they don't have to pay him any more money. They already know that contract was stupid that they gave him. I don't know what you do, man. Like, Giants, I really have no answers for you. Chargers, Panthers, we both have the Chargers. I love what I see from that offensive line. If J.K. Dobbins could stay healthy and then Ladd McConkey can continue to develop and they get maybe one more receiver there, they will be solid. That'll be a great team to end up seeing just come together. I'm not really concerned about them on offense. Defense, we do have a little bit of concerns, but we'll continue to see if they can grow and what ends up happening there for them. Steelers, Broncos, we both have the Steelers in that one. Broncos Nation is no longer riding right now. They were dinking and dumping the whole time. Bo Nix did not throw the ball that far. You had some receivers have 6, 7, 8 receptions, less than 40 yards. It's not going to work that way. They're still working out the backfield with Jaleel McLaughlin and then also Javonte Williams. But right now, I'm going with the Steelers in that one. I love what I saw from the defense, and that's really all you need right now. I can also see this being Russell Wilson's job for sure once Russell Wilson is good to go. Justin Fields has to get a little more confidence. And if he can play the way he played in Chicago, they can be good. George Pickens will be solid. They need to figure out a way to spread the ball out a little bit more, but I know it's kind of tough for Justin Fields getting into a new offense. Also, he has to do better with his accuracy too, and has to be more confident in the pocket and aware, and that's something we have not fully seen just yet. The next one, Bengals Chiefs. Both got the Chiefs. You saw what the Chiefs just did to the Ravens, so I don't think there's anything we need to say. They're going to blanket Jamar Chase. I personally have Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson in one league, so I'm not happy to see the 49ers playing against the Vikings and then the Chiefs playing up against the Bengals. Concerns on both sides. The next one we have Bears Texans. We both have the Texans. Love what I see from the Texans. CJ Stroud is doing great. Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and Stephon Diggs all did well. Joe Mixon, 100-plus rushing yards as well. You can't go wrong with the way this offense is playing. Defense held their own too. Falcons Eagles, that's the Monday night game. We both had the Eagles. Kirk Cousins did not take one snap under center. Everything was in the pistol or in shotgun formation, and that's important to know. Reason being, the Eagles defense is some shit. I'm going to tell you that right now. They are not good, but they are good enough to end up beating the Falcons. Let's put it that way. If you can get home to Kirk Cousins, you're fine. Keep Bijan Robinson in the pocket. Don't let Bijan get outside the numbers so that he can end up getting yards, or even in the receiving game, get yards that way. If you do that, you'll be fine. Rams, Cardinals, we both have the Rams. Cardinals did look good against the Bills, but my only thing is Matthew Stafford is still Matthew Stafford, and I can see Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp connecting together. You also have Kyren Williams that is still there, and Kyren Williams should go for over 80 rushing yards. I will say that Cooper Kupp can have a 100-yard receiving game too, so pay attention to those two things. Raiders, Ravens. Home opener for the Ravens. The other part with this is Isaiah Likely is coming alive. This is someone that I've chosen 2 leagues, and I would recommend it. I'll put this in my fantasy football portion. I think that Isaiah Likely is going to fill that void of that second receiver that they are missing. And I'll say more about that when I get into the fantasy football portion. But the Ravens should take this one. The Raiders are not the Raiders of old right now. Sorry for all the old school Raiders fans that believed in the Raiders back in the day, but they're not the same. The next one, Browns, Jaguars. We both have the Browns. The Jags are okay. They did give up the game against the Dolphins. My only thing is on the Brown side, Deshaun Watson, you need to do something because, my guy, between you and Daniel Jones, I don't know who's going to lose their job first. One of y'all two are not staying the whole season. Someone's going to go to the bench at this point. And then both of y'all, the Browns and the Giants are going to be looking for quarterbacks next year if this keeps up. You want to continue to believe in the Browns. The only thing is the Browns have a lot more to lose than the Giants. There is so much dead cap that you have to worry about, whereas the Giants, they will have dead cap, but it's similar to a Carson Wentz contract. You can get out of it and still be kind of fine. All that's fully guaranteed for the Browns. I'll leave it at that, but I have the Browns in that one. Steven has the Browns. Bucks, Lions. I loved what I saw from the Lions. A great game that they played against the Rams. Home opener. They did great. and they came alive. So I'm going with the Lions. Steven has the Lions in that. My next part that I do want to say, I have a lot of concerns for the Panthers, not just this year, but for years to come. I don't know what the Panthers are going to do because they need to fix something ASAP. What is happening down there in Charlotte is concerning for everybody because I know that they are so much better than that. They are putting pieces together, and you don't want to fully put it on Bryce Young, but it's starting to become a lot of stuff goes on Bryce Young. The next thing that you can end up assessing from this, Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers. If you pay attention to how Kirk and Cousins was in the pocket compared to Aaron Rodgers seemed to have a little more mobility. He doesn't run a lot. Neither of them do, but he seemed a little more comfortable. That's kind of the big thing. And it makes you think they knew about picking Michael Penix for a reason. A lot of people questioned it. After seeing what I saw, no matter if Kirk plays the rest of the season fine, I'm perfectly fine in that pick that they did. Yes, of course, you would have wanted a specialty player or even someone on defense, position guy, something, O-line, anything. You don't know if Kirk is going to finish the year, and if he doesn't, then you have your backup quarterback right there, and you're fine. Yeah, I know Kirk Cousins felt this type of way, but you can't think about one person. You got to think about the team. And if that one person goes down, aka like Jordan Love, and you have Malik Willis as your backup, you're in a tough situation. Whereas you have Michael Penix, you're in a decent situation. Other thing is Packers fans are happy and upset. They're happy because Jordan Love's only going to be gone maybe 4 to 5 games and in the beginning of the season, so he'll be straight for the rest. You also know that that's your franchise quarterback no matter what. The other part is they're upset because I know Malik Willis, the most he's going to do is 2-2. That's on a good day. He'll bring it 2-2. And if they have some terrible teams they're playing, you better pray you have some bad games against the other side because those receivers are not going to get a lot of points. They're not going to get a lot of catches. Fantasy-wise, you're not going to get a lot of points. Cardinals, they don't look too bad. Marvin Harrison, don't worry about him. He's going to end up having his day. He'll be fine. Giants, talked about them. Giants and Panthers are competing for the number 1 pick at this point. And then Giants and Browns are trying to figure out whose quarterback is going to last longer, essentially. Titans, Will Levis should be fine. He held his own. I do have to see more from him. Bucks, they have their little trio. And when I say trio, Baker Mayfield and then Mike Evans and then also Chris Godwin, that 3 will be fine kind of going forward. They're a serviceable team to make the playoffs, but they're not that competitive team to take the next step to the conference championship and even the Super Bowl right now, or I don't know ever, but they'll allow their stadiums to always be filled. If you understand what I mean by that, you'll get it. They'll put people in the seats. That's the type of team that they currently have. They're not like the Panthers where tickets are going for $2. We'll leave it at that. Steelers, they are going to continue to rely on their defense. They have to figure out a way to end up making this more about their offense. So, because your offense got to put up more points. The defense can do it, and they have all the pieces in place to do it. But if push comes to shove and the defense is always getting y'all back on the field, someone got to make a play. That's the other thing. Next week, we will talk about the trio. That's something that I'm very excited for, kind of to see more of how the trio is within the Houston Texans. Another one is the San Francisco 49ers, kind of seeing who's going to merge there. Another one is the Chicago Bears. And then the Jacksonville Jaguars is another one to talk about. And then also the Green Bay Packers. So we'll touch on a lot of those different wide receiver groups and kind of who we feel is going to stand out just going forward. The final thing I do want to bring up now is fantasy football-wise. So I'll touch on some quarterbacks, some running back, wide receivers, and tight ends. First one at quarterback, Baker Mayfield is probably one of the main ones you want to pay attention to. And for anyone that doesn't know, I use like 4 different apps. So I'll use the ESPN Fantasy Football app. I'll use the Yahoo app, NFL Fantasy, and Sleeper. For right now, the easiest one for me to just get into is going to be the ESPN Fantasy app. So anyone can't see, that's how it is. But the quarterbacks that are out there and available, I'm not necessarily going with Justin Fields. I'd probably say Matthew Stafford's a solid one to use, and then Baker Mayfield. Those are two. Matthew Stafford plays Arizona. That's a solid matchup. Baker Mayfield does play Detroit, although they did play him in the playoffs last year. It'll be a get back game, so I have confidence that they can do well. Those would probably be my only two right now. Running back wise, the big name is Jordan Mason. He's going to be picked up in a lot of different leagues. Alexander Madison is someone that can have some starting potential. Rushing wise, he wasn't there, but receiving wise, he did have 6 targets for 43 yards and a touchdown. That'll get you some points every single week. Those would probably be my two main ones, Jordan Mason and then also Alexander Madison. You can also go Justice Hill if you do want to, because he'll play a factor in the receiving game. He did have 6 receptions on 8 targets for 52 yards. That, if he falls in the end zone once, you ended up having a good day there. So those are the 3. Pay attention. Honorable mention, I would say, is Tank Bigsby, just because he did take some work away from Travis Etienne last week, because Travis Etienne did have a fumble within the 5-yard line, and that plays a factor. Now going into wide receivers, main one I would say is Demarcus Robinson should have an impact because Puka Nacua is going to be out at least 4 games. So there has to be that wide receiver 2. Another one is Brandon Cooks. So again, wide receiver 2s in certain offenses are going to do well. Brandon Cooks right now is only 30% rostered. And last week he did have 4 receptions for 40 yards and then a touchdown. That touchdown, if he can get that certain weeks, you're going to get at least 10 to 12 points from him. So Demarcus Robinson, Brandon Cooks are 2. Allen Lazard is another one. He's just Aaron Rodgers' best buddy over there. They've been with each other for a minute. Those are the 3 I would go with. Of course, I know some people might say, what about Adam Thielen? Don't do anything with the Carolina Panthers offense right now. Quentin Johnston, no. I'm believing in Ladd McConkey, number 1, and then also Joshua Palmer if you want to figure out a second person up there. Other than that, you can look at Wan'Dale Robinson. Last week, he did have 6 receptions on 12 targets. 12 targets is a lot of targets to end up having. Did end up beating Malik Neighbors in terms of targets there, but it was on 44 yards. So we do want to see that being converted into more receiving yards and receptions because he only had caught 50% of the passes that were thrown his way. It's not all his fault. I can assure you of that. A lot of that ends up going into the person that was throwing him the ball. Final one, Greg Dortch, 6 receptions on 8 targets and 47 yards. But if I had to rank this, I would say my personal number 1 might be a tie. So I like Brandon Cooks because I know what he can give you. So Brandon Cooks and Wan'Dale Robinson would be number 1. Number 2 would probably be one of the 2 Rams receivers. So either Demarcus Robinson or you can go Tyler Johnson. Both of those would do well for you. And then number 3, you can go with Allen Lazard or Greg Dortch. Those would be the area of how I would end up doing it. But Brandon Cooks long-term will be a good pick for you because he's going to be impacting it positively. If CeeDee Lamb gets injured, Brandon Cooks is going to get a lot more work his way. Going into the tight ends, Isaiah Likely, number 1. There's, first off, number 1 just far and beyond. And I can go into what I was going to say about him. So Isaiah Likely is going to be used as a wide receiver too. They have Zay Flowers, who's clearly the wide receiver 1. Rashad Bateman's questionable. I don't know. Nelson Aguilar really made me mad just off of last week. And it's going to be Isaiah Likely. Mark Andrews is still the tight end number 1, but Isaiah Likely is much more athletic, and then they can move him around in a lot of different places. You will see this happening throughout the season too. Isaiah Likely would be the main one. The other one is Colby Parkinson. He's going to end up receiving more work because Puka Nacua got injured. Number 3, I would end up going with Jawan Johnson. I would only go with Jawan Johnson because of the fact he will catch a random touchdown. Dalton Schultz, I'm not trusting. He's the 5th target out there. You have the 3 wide receivers, and you have Joe Mixon and then Dalton Schultz. I don't see Dalton Schultz getting a lot of work. Last week, he's a check down. 3 targets, 3 receptions for 16 yards. It wasn't like he got a lot of work, but he'll get the check downs. He might fall in the end zone for a touchdown. I can see 4 touchdowns on the season for Dalton Schultz, but don't expect this to be an every single game occurrence. Other than that, I'm not too confident in the rest of the wide receivers. If for some reason out there you do see TJ Hawkinson, pick him up, put him on your bench, because he's going to get work once he comes back. If you're in a dynasty league or a keeper league, get TJ Hawkinson, because next year when JJ McCarthy's there, you'll have those three receivers that are going to be able to help you: Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, and also TJ Hawkinson. Final one we'll go into is the streaming defenses. Chargers defense should be number one. They play the Panthers. That's really all I should say. The Chiefs you can look into. The Chiefs play the Bengals, and the Chiefs did decently against the Ravens. Another one you can look at is not for next week, but the Bears. So the Bears did well against the Titans, but you can't put a lot of stock into that. The Patriots kind of, my only real one that I would say look at right now would be the Chargers. Number two, you can look at potentially is the Jaguars, just because the Cleveland Browns the offense isn't great. And then the final one I would say for you all is the Colts. So the Colts only because Malik Willis is the quarterback. But yeah, that's my main ones that I have for you in terms of the fantasy football world. Don't be surprised if all of them are gone. I also would not recommend everyone putting a lot of their fab dollars if you guys do budgeting or money and fantasy allocation of dollars either on a weekly basis or for the whole season. Don't use it all in week one. I promise you're going to find that Kyren Williams, that Puka Nacua, that random, maybe even kicker or defense. I picked up Dallas Cowboys defense in a lot of my leagues. They were just drifting out in the abyss at first, and I just picked them up off the free agent waiver wire one week, and it just worked. So that's all I have for you guys today. I appreciate it. Tried to keep it straight to the point. There's a lot to talk about on my side with the NFL. Steven's side will always be college football, and that's how we blend it together. Until next time, it's Hayes. We out.